Sometime in the near future, a drifter, simply known as the Man, disembarks a train car he has hitched a ride in at the Greenview outpost in the inhospitable desert. He is ignored when he asks the outpost attendant if the man that is supposed to take him to the compound has arrived yet. While using the delightful restroom facilities, the driver asks him if he is the one going to the compound. The driver surprises him by telling him he has to pay $100 for fuel, on top of the $200 for the ride and $20 for water. He says either pay or go back. He isn't happy about it, but doesn't have much choice. The driver tells him the company should have told him. There is a news report on the radio saying that Bitcoin is trading at $1.25 million, and the leading charity crypto coin, Avatar Eclipse, contributed another $1 million in aid to the Northern Territory caught in the crossfire. The driver tells him not to turn up the aircon as it will blow the engine. They drive on for many miles into the desert. They get a flat tire and the man volunteers to change it. They hear two wild dogs fighting and the weaker one starting to be eaten. The driver chases off the dog and puts the injured dog down. They are soon back on the road and drive until the sun goes down. They talk around the campfire and mention that things are bad out west and people are starting to turn on each other, and the big exodus down south will have a bad ending. The driver asks him why he's going to the compound, and he answers it's for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and shows him a flyer looking for workers. The driver warns him that it's not all it's cracked up to be. The work is hard and the hours are very long, the whole place is damned, and that he will have a target on his back there. The next day, the man is driving while the driver sleeps, and he starts dicking around with the aircon controls. It doesn't take long for the engine to make enough noise to wake the driver, and he yells at him to stop and gets out swearing at him. The man gets out and apologizes to him and goes to relieve himself, and then inspects a pile of rocks. He finds a big lump of gold-looking metal and calls the driver over to look at it. The driver is shocked and uses his blowtorch to try and burn it, saying if it goes black, it is not gold. It does not go black, and he says,
"That's fucking gold."
They use shovels to remove the sand around it and reveal an enormous nugget of gold, which will not shift in the slightest. The man wonders what they are going to do. Trying to pull it out with a truck just keeps snapping the rope. The driver says they will need to collect firewood for a fire to keep the wild dogs away, that can sense the men are there. The man can hear the dogs barking in the distance. "I guess you won't be going to the compound anymore," jokes the driver. He gets up and starts shouting, "We found a pile of gold." The man gets up and they both celebrate their good fortune. The driver says that one of them will have to go to get an excavator while the other looks after the gold. He says he knows where he can get an excavator and it will be possibly a 5-day round trip. The driver says that he does not trust the man to keep his head while he's gone and suggests that the man goes to get the excavator from someone he trusts. He goes on to say that he doesn't think he has the survival skills to stay in the desert for that amount of time. The man insists that he stays with the gold. The driver gives him some water and 3 cans of food, a Leatherman multi-tool to hunt with, and a sat phone with spare batteries, which he says he will call en route. The driver tells him to keep his head on and says when he is back they will both be rich as all hell. The man reburies the gold and sets up a bivouac for shelter. He collects more firewood and gently drives off a scorpion from his camp. He doesn't get much sleep on the first night, listening to the dogs fighting and prowling around the campsite. He is having difficulties taking a dump when the sat phone rings. He runs over, but it hangs up before he can answer. He spends the day sitting around bored out of his mind and breaks the monotony by collecting more firewood. He sees something flashing in the distance and decides to investigate after he has covered the gold completely. He walks over to investigate and finds a crashed light aircraft with Korean lettering on the side. He strips parts from it and drags them back to the encampment where he reinforces his shelter. Somehow he manages to break off a smaller nugget. The driver calls to tell him that the engine is overheated and he's going to take longer than expected to get there. The man tells him about the chunk. The driver says, "Just stay put with the gold and we'll have the whole thing." Another night of howling dogs passes. In the morning he's having a drink and sees a snake coming towards him. He goes to try and stab it with the knife rather than using a rock, but it outwits him and escapes by slowly slithering away. He inadvertently kicks over the water bottle. Later that day he's back at the aircraft rummaging for materials when he sees a figure walking towards him out of the distance. He hides in the fuselage of the aircraft, and when the woman asks him if he's hiding, he says no. He joins her outside and she asks him questions and tells him there is a water hole 5 kilometers away with better shelter. She offers him some food and drink, but he refuses, and she walks off saying she noticed his other camp. He said she can stay in the airplane, but she follows him back to his camp asking him questions and saying she thinks he's up to something. She starts harassing him and swearing at him, saying he shouldn't be here. She walks up on him threateningly, and he wallops her in the head with a spade, killing her. He rifles through her supplies and buries her in a shallow grave until the wild dogs try to get at her body. He chases the dogs off and digs up her body and burns it that night. The next day, he gets a call from the driver who suspects him of being delirious. He says he will be there as soon as he can and for him to keep his head. That evening, as he is collecting wood, a huge storm blows through and destroys his shelter. The tree is ripped up and hits him, leaving a branch sticking out of him when he regains consciousness. He removes the branch and cauterizes the wound with a piece of metal. Starting to hallucinate, he sees the woman is alive again and is snapped out of it when he gets a call from the driver. He mentions the woman, and the driver is confused and says he has to get rid of her, whatever it takes. As soon as he's off the phone, there is another woman that looks and sounds very similar to the dead woman, who asks him if he is hungry. He tells her to leave, and she asks him if he has seen her sister. He replies, "Go!" She leaves. The man gets a call from the driver again, and he says he is close and he can see the smoke from the fires. The wild dogs have now got the man in their sights and are surrounding him, just waiting for their next meal. He is trying to fend them off, but he is weak and they are getting closer and starting to bite him. The driver is listening to this over the phone. He is watching the man being attacked by the dogs. The dogs finally make them move and kill the man and then start devouring him while the driver looks on. Oh man, that's harsh. The driver has been camping out since his return, waiting for this moment, and now he drives his truck with the excavator to extract the gold. He looks over the man's body and he's ready to get digging when a crossbow bolt comes out of nowhere and hits him in the heart. He falls to the ground and dies next to the man. And that is the end of this tale of greed. Please subscribe to our channel and check out our other videos. Thanks for watching. Peace out.